The city never sleeps, and neither do I. Not really. After 30 years behind the wheel, first a cab, now those slick apps, Uber and Lyft, you learn to read the glow of the streetlights and the tension in a passenger's shoulders like a book. Some folks climb in, looking like they're already halfway home in their dreams. Others, well, they carry the weight of the world right into your back seat. And sometimes, they just need someone to hear the drop of it. I'm Leo, and hearing things is what I do. It was one of those raw, damp nights in late November, the kind where the cold seems to seep right through the window seals and settle in your bones. My shift was dragging, just a series of short hops, airport drop-offs, a couple of late-night grocery runs. Nothing to write home about, which ironically is exactly what makes you a good driver, blending into the background. My screen lit up for a pickup about 3 blocks over near the financial district, right where the big glass towers start to cast long, lonely shadows. Address was a big corporate building, but the pickup spot was listed as a service alley tucked away behind it. That was the first unusual sign. People leaving the towers usually use the main entrance, bathed in light and granite. Service alleys are for dumpsters and secrets. I eased the old car around the corner, my headlights slicing through the mist and hitting a figure huddled near a loading dock. He was young, maybe mid-20s, dressed in what looked like a $1,000 suit that was now rumpled and straining around him. He was pacing, phone pressed to his ear, his voice low and frantic. As I pulled up, the rear door didn't just open, it was practically yanked open. Leo, thank God. Thank you. He practically fell into the back seat, slamming the door shut so hard my rear-view mirror rattled. I took a slow breath, just the usual steadying presence you need to be. Welcome aboard. Where are we headed? He didn't answer right away. He was twisted around, staring out the back window into the darkness of the alley. His chest was heaving, not just from the exertion of rushing, but something deeper. Fear. It was radiating off him like heat. I could see the sweat stains darkening the expensive wool of his suit jacket, even in the chill of the night. His eyes, when they finally flicked forward to meet mine in the mirror, were wide, darting, and absolutely panicked. Please, just drive. Get out of the alley, now. His voice was a thin, high rasp, totally devoid of the confident executive tone his clothes suggested. The desperation was immediate, a sharp spike of adrenaline that instantly lifted the dullness of my long shift. I looked at the app. The destination was a residential street way out in Brooklyn, a long haul which was good for my wallet but seemed strangely far for a simple trip home from the office. I didn't argue though. When someone tells you to just drive, you drive. I pulled out onto the main street, slowly at first, checking my mirrors, half expecting to see another car peel out after us. Nothing, just the regular late-night traffic and the wet, shining asphalt. I drove for about a block before I spoke again, keeping my voice low and steady. It's important to give them space, but also to anchor them back to reality. Okay, we're clear of the building, sir. To confirm, we're heading to the address on the app, 712 Juniper Lane, correct? He whipped his head around again, checking the back window, then slumped against the seat. His tie was crooked, his hair slightly disheveled. He looked like a man who hadn't slept well in weeks, and tonight was the breaking point. The tension that had been gripping my own shoulders eased just a fraction. Yes, Juniper Lane. But I need you to go faster than usual, Leo. Can you please drive faster? I'm running from my boss, the passenger gasped, the last part coming out in a rush of air, a confession that seemed to pain him physically. Now, that was a new one. I've had people late for planes, late for dates, even late for a baby's birth. But running from the boss. Usually that involves a resignation letter, not a high-speed getaway in my sedan. The absurdity of the situation hit me first, followed quickly by a wave of genuine concern. This wasn't some college kid pulling a prank. This man was terrified. His hands were gripping the edges of the seat so tightly, his knuckles were white. Running from your boss? I repeated softly, letting the phrase hang in the air for him to hear how it sounded out loud. That sounds like a serious situation, son. Is he physically pursuing you? Are we in danger? I slowed slightly, checking the cars around us again. I've got limits. My car is not a getaway vehicle for violent crimes. He shook his head violently, a twitching, involuntary movement. No, no, nothing like that. It's the consequences. If he finds me, if he catches up with me before I can get to the evidence, I'm ruined. Everything. He'll bury me, Leo. He has the power to do it. The way he spoke, evidence and power, made this sound less like a workplace dispute over a missed deadline and more like the third act of a tense thriller. The air in the car thickened immediately. The initial fear was quickly morphing into something more complex. A desperate fight for survival, for reputation, maybe even for freedom. I accelerated gently, smoothly, but definitely above the usual cruising speed. I needed to keep him talking, to understand the stakes without pushing him over the edge. Look, I can drive fast, but I can't break the law. Not for anything, but I can certainly take the quickest routes. Now, you need to take a breath and tell me what's happening so I know how to help you. What kind of boss are we talking about here? I risked a longer glance at him in the mirror. He pulled out a worn-out business card from his wallet, tracing the gold lettering with a shaky finger. This man, he runs the firm, the whole investment bank. He's a legend. He brought me in, trained me, made me think I was his protege. But he's a thief, Leo, a world-class thief. And I saw something tonight. I saw the books, and I wasn't supposed to. He was supposed to be in London. He came back early. He knows I saw it. I barely got out of the office. If I go back there or if he finds me before I can expose him, I'm the one who takes the fall. The evidence is crucial. It's the only way to prove I didn't do it. His voice cracked on the last sentence. The fear in his eyes had now mixed with a heavy dose of betrayal. The betrayal was the emotional trigger here. The deep, cold sting of realizing your mentor is your monster. That's what made the story compelling. The trust broken. The word thief and investment bank immediately changed the texture of the ride. This wasn't just a personal spat. This was potentially a major white-collar crime, maybe something that would make the front pages. My role had just shifted from simple driver to silent accomplice in a high-stakes escape. I tightened my grip on the wheel, my focus sharpening. The rhythm of the city outside suddenly seemed less comforting, more like a maze we had to navigate successfully. The urgency in his voice was contagious, making my own heart thump a little faster in my chest. I glanced at the clock on the dashboard, wishing the miles would melt away faster. "Okay, son, take another deep breath," I instructed, keeping my tone fatherly and calm, injecting a sense of control into his chaos. "I understand. A long drive ahead. You need to hold it together. Now tell me, is there a back entrance to Juniper Lane that's less visible? We don't want to go in the front door, just in case, right?" The idea of cover, of planning the approach, seemed to give him a momentary focus, pulling him away from the spiral of panic. The shift in his demeanor, though subtle, was a small victory. He was starting to think strategically, not just reacting. He was moving from pure fear to determined action, and I was going to be the one to get him there. The tension was building beautifully, a slow burn of professional desperation against a backdrop of city lights. His eyes, which had been darting wildly, finally settled a little when I mentioned the back entrance. It was a simple question, but it gave him an immediate problem to solve, a distraction from the bigger monster chasing him. I saw a spark of the sharp intellect his tailored suit promised. That was good. We needed intellect more than panic right now. "Yes, Leo, the back. It's a duplex, the unit in the back. There's a narrow access road next to the old park. It's barely lit. It's safer. We need to be invisible until I get inside." He rubbed his temples, a deep crease forming between his eyebrows. "The evidence, it's digital. I have it backed up, but the physical key to unlock it, the only one, is hidden in that apartment. My apartment. If I don't retrieve it now, it'll be too late. He'll send someone to clean out the place." The stakes just went up again. This wasn't just about escaping a person. It was a race against time for an object. The key, the emotional trigger here, became the fragility of his last hope. It was something small and physical standing between him and absolute ruin. I gripped the steering wheel, my mind calculating distance and time. The city traffic, usually a familiar lull, now felt like a living adversary, deliberately trying to slow us down. Every red light was an unbearable, anxiety-inducing stop. A key, got it. I confirmed, navigating a sudden, aggressive lane change. So, he's not just after you. He knows you have something, and he knows where you live. This changes things, son. We need to assume your apartment is already being watched, or soon will be. How much time do we have? How long until this legend boss of yours figures out you slipped away? He leaned forward, lowering his voice even though we were alone in the car, as if the very air could carry his confession back to his pursuer. I was in the server room, checking a late patch update, when I saw the ledger. It was open, a simple mistake on his part, but the numbers, they were astronomical. Billions, siphoned off for years, routed through shell companies. I froze. He walked in maybe 3 minutes later. He didn't see me looking at the screen, but he saw the shock on my face. He knew. I made some excuse about a firewall issue and got out. That was maybe 40 minutes ago. It takes him 10 minutes to be certain. Another 10 to send the order. We have maybe 20 minutes before his heavy hitters start staking out my place. Maybe less. 20 minutes. The clock was ticking not just for his evidence, but for his entire future. The betrayal was now laced with the very real primal fear of being hunted. My old sedan, which usually felt like a safe, familiar bubble, now felt like a thinly shielded capsule speeding through enemy territory. I pushed the accelerator a little harder, trying to shave seconds off the journey without drawing the attention of a patrol car. "All right, 20 minutes, that's tight but doable," I said, projecting confidence I didn't entirely feel. This was my job, to be the calm center in the storm. "We're taking the BQE tonight. It's faster, but it's going to be rough. Hold on." As we merged onto the expressway, the sounds changed. The close, muffled city noises were replaced by the roar of the freeway, the wind buffeting the car, the relentless high-speed drone of hundreds of vehicles. The noise amplified the tension. He was staring straight ahead now, his hands clasped tight in his lap, his breathing shallow and rapid. I could sense the emotional pressure building up inside him like steam in a sealed kettle. He told me I was family, he whispered, the words barely audible over the tire noise. He said I was the son he never had. All those late nights, all the sacrifices I made for the firm. I turned down offers from competitors just because I believed in him, Leo. And all that time, he was grooming me not as a successor, but as a potential fall guy. If I hadn't seen that ledger, I would have spent the next 10 years unknowingly helping him steal, and then one day, I would have woken up in handcuffs, holding the blame. The depth of his emotional pain was immense. It wasn't just the professional ruin, it was the psychological wound of profound disillusionment and lost innocence. This was the core emotional trigger now, the grief of realizing his life's path had been a meticulously crafted lie. I saw a young man's career, his idealism, and his trust being shredded right there in my rearview mirror. "That's a heavy burden to carry, son," I responded, my voice softening just slightly, a gesture of quiet empathy. "Betrayal like that cuts deeper than any knife. But listen to me. What matters right now is proving your clean hands. That key. That's your leverage. You focus on that. Let the rest of the pain wait until you're safe." He nodded once, sharp and decisive, as if shaking off the emotional weight for a moment to refocus on the mission. "The access road. It's on the left, right after the old gas station on 8th Avenue. It looks like a dead end, but it curves around the back of the park. It's perfect." I checked my navigation, seeing the turn coming up in 5 minutes. The adrenaline was now running strong in my own veins. The city lights blurred as we flew past them, each mile a victory, each mile bringing us closer to a potentially dangerous confrontation. My training, all those years of keeping a cool head during unexpected crises, drunk passengers, minor accidents, roadside emergencies, was kicking in. I was no longer just Leo the driver. I was Leo, the unexpected guardian, the final line of defense. As we neared the exit, a sleek black SUV, the kind favored by executive protection services, suddenly sped up behind us, tailgating aggressively. My blood ran cold. Was it them? Was it just a coincidence? The tension in the car spiked again, sharper and more immediate than before. The stakes had materialized. "Look out! That SUV, black, tinted windows. They're too close. That's not normal driving," he hissed. his voice tight with renewed terror. His breathing stopped completely. I instinctively pressed the accelerator, pushing my old car near its limit. "Hold tight, we're almost to the exit. I'm going to lose him in the turn." I checked my mirrors, making quick, calculated moves. The moment was about pure, high-octane action and evasion. I needed to get off this straight, predictable freeway and into the confusing, twisting city streets to break the line of sight. This was no longer just a fast drive. It was an escape. The black SUV was an immediate, terrifying confirmation of his fears. It wasn't tailgating like an impatient commuter. It was locked onto us, a predator scenting its prey. The tint on the windows was so dark I couldn't make out a single silhouette inside, which only made it more menacing. They were a faceless, powerful threat, backed by billions in stolen capital. They weren't going to just tap the window and ask for the key. "Okay, don't look back at them, son. Just tell me what's coming up," I commanded, my voice sharp and professional. The adrenaline had fully taken over now, clearing my mind of the late-night fatigue. This was the most excitement my old sedan had seen since, well, ever. "8th Avenue exit. Now, it's the next one," he shouted, pointing through the windshield. His fear had been channeled into a laser focus on navigation. Good. He was still functional. I swung the car hard across 2 lanes, cutting off a slow-moving truck, the horn blaring in protest behind us. I ignored it. I needed that exit ramp. The SUV matched my speed, sticking close, refusing to lose contact. As we hit the ramp, I didn't brake much, using the curve's momentum to keep the speed up, testing the limits of the tire's grip on the slick asphalt. "The gas station. See it? Left side, past the stop sign," he urged. I saw it. A dilapidated, closed-up station, its old neon signs sputtering erratically, and next to it a break in the chain-link fence, a narrow, barely paved strip of road that looked more like a drainage ditch than an access point. It was exactly what we needed, a path the big, bulky SUV would struggle to navigate. I slammed the brakes just long enough to make the sharp left turn, spinning the steering wheel rapidly. We bounced hard, the car scraping bottom as we hit the uneven access road. The sound was a harsh, sickening crunch, but I kept going. The main thing was the immediate break in the chase. I glanced in the side mirror. The black SUV hadn't hesitated. They took the turn too, but they had to slow down significantly to avoid ripping off their bumper on the curb, giving us a crucial few seconds. The road we were on was dark, lined with dense, wet hedges and trees, effectively blinding anyone trying to follow from a distance. The emotional trigger here was the narrow escape and the increasing isolation. We were off the grid now, alone in the dark with no witnesses. We're on the access road. Now what? I asked, keeping the speed steady, navigating the potholes by instinct. "Keep going. It opens up to a small cul-de-sac behind the park. My building is the second door on the left. Unit B. The key is in a wall safe. I need less than 3 minutes to get in, get the key, and get back out." He was breathing through his mouth now, the words tumbling out in short, breathless bursts. His hand was trembling as he pointed forward, his desperation palpable. 3 minutes. That's all the time we have. I'm not parking. I'm keeping the engine running, headlights off, pointed out. You get out, get in, get the key, and you run straight back to this exact spot. Don't look around. Don't hesitate. You run like your life depends on it, because I think it does. The finality in my voice seemed to shock him slightly, focusing his mind on the sheer gravity of the moment. The road twisted and then, just as he described, opened up into a small, dark residential area. It was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that feels heavy and unnatural in the city. 2 duplexes shared a tiny, weed-choked lawn. His Unit B had a single flickering porch light that only seemed to highlight the shadows. I pulled the car right up to the curb, facing the direction we had come from, ready to bolt. I killed the headlights and set the parking brake, leaving the engine a low, anxious rumble. "Go. Now," I whispered. He didn't need a second invitation. He shoved his door open, the dome light briefly illuminating his face, a mask of white-knuckled terror and strained resolve. He was moving on pure necessity now. The moment was about vulnerability and the race against the inevitable. He was at the door, fumbling with his keys, taking precious seconds that felt like hours. I was glued to my rearview mirror, watching the mouth of the access road, waiting for the telltale sweep of headlights. Where are they? Did we lose them? The silence was excruciating, punctuated only by the frantic clicks of his key in the lock. Finally, the click. He burst through the door, disappearing inside the dark apartment. And then, the sound I had been dreading. The distinct, low-frequency sound of a large engine turning onto the access road. It wasn't a quick burst of light, it was a slow, deliberate movement. Headlights cutting through the trees. They hadn't lost us. They had slowed down to be stealthy, to avoid alarming the neighbors. They were professional. "Come on, son. Come on," I muttered under my breath, my hands gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles ached. My heart was pounding a deafening rhythm against my ribs. I had maybe a minute, less, before they turned the final corner and saw my car. I was trapped, relying entirely on the speed of the terrified young man inside the duplex. The emotional tension was at its absolute peak, the ticking clock of discovery. Every second was a debt being called in. I was ready to peel out, even if it meant leaving him. But something deeper, an old driver's code of honor, kept me rooted. I wouldn't leave a passenger in the middle of a war zone. Not yet. Just as the headlights began to sweep across the outer edge of the cul-de-sac, a shadow detached itself from the doorway of Unit B. It was him. He was back. He ran with the clumsy desperation of a man who hasn't run in years, clutching something small and metallic in his hand. The key. He yanked the passenger door open again, throwing himself into the seat. His face was flushed, his hair damp, his chest heaving like he'd run a marathon. He was still breathing life, and that was all that mattered. "I have it! Go, Leo, go!" he screamed, the sound cracking with raw relief and persistent fear. I didn't wait for him to close the door fully. I stomped the accelerator, tires screaming in protest as my old sedan launched forward. I took the curve back onto the access road at a dangerous angle, the car listing precariously. As we fishtailed onto the dark path, I saw them. The black SUV was just rounding the corner, their massive grille instantly recognizable in my side mirror. And they had seen us. The sight of that massive black SUV filling my rearview mirror confirmed the worst. This wasn't just a threat. It was a full-scale pursuit. The relief that had briefly flooded the passenger, the young man, whom I still hadn't gotten a name for, but I'd call him the Analyst in my head, vanished instantly, replaced by sheer gut-wrenching dread. I pushed the old car to its maximum, praying the engine wouldn't seize up from the sudden, aggressive demand. We bounced violently along the unpaved access road, every pothole transmitting a painful jolt up my spine. The Analyst was frantically pulling the door shut as we sped, the heavy thunk of it locking into place sounding like a drumbeat of finality. "They saw the plates, Leo. They know exactly who we are," he gasped, clutching the metallic key in one hand and his phone in the other. He finally looked at me, and I saw a new, dangerous element in his eyes. Fear transitioning into pure survival instinct. The time for weeping over betrayal was over. It was time to fight. "They know the car, son, but they don't know where we're going next. They just know we're fast. Tell me where. You have the key. Where does this evidence need to go now? A lawyer? The police?" I kept my eyes on the road, weaving around a fallen branch. The SUV was gaining, its headlights enormous and menacing behind us. "No, not the police yet. My boss has connections everywhere. If I go to the police now, they'll sideline the evidence, and I'll be arrested first. I need a secure, neutral location. I need to reach my source," he explained, his voice gaining a hard, strategic edge. "There's a journalist, an old friend of my father's, who specializes in financial crimes. She's trustworthy. She can get this on the front page before my boss can squash it." "Where is this journalist?" I demanded, braking hard as we emerged from the dirt path and hit the main street again. I took a hard right, knowing the straight route back to the freeway was too predictable. We needed to disappear into the tangled grid of the city. "Midtown, near Rockefeller Center, the Global Observer building. It's impossible, Leo. They'll catch us in traffic." The defeat in his voice was crushing. Midtown in the late night was still a maze of slow-moving vehicles and relentless stoplights. The emotional tension was now the frustration of knowing the goal is close but seemingly unattainable. "Impossible is just a long word for difficult, son. We're going. Give me the cross street," I said, my voice cutting through his despair. I immediately activated my Maps app, overriding the previous destination. I wasn't just using the streets now. I was using my decades of accrued knowledge. The shortcuts, the one-way street exceptions, the alleys that looked like dead ends but opened up into new avenues. I plunged the car into the heart of the city's side streets. The black SUV was struggling to keep up, their size and low profile making the sharp corners and parked cars a liability. I could see the tiny, satisfying gap widening in my mirror. I was playing a dangerous game, using the city's chaos as my shield. It's 49th and 5th. Entrance on 49th. They have a secure press lockbox in the lobby, he recited, his eyes finally starting to look ahead, tracking my movements. He was actively participating now, shifting from passive victim to strategic partner. As we navigated the tight turns, the emotional pressure began to subtly shift. The primal fear was still present, but it was being tempered by a growing sense of defiant urgency. He wasn't just running away anymore. He was running towards justice. "Tell me something, son," I said, slowing slightly to check an intersection. "If this man is this powerful, if he's a legend, why didn't he just try to block you at the bank? Why let you walk out?" The analyst sighed, a shaky, exhausted sound. Arrogance. He couldn't risk a confrontation inside the building. He knows he's being watched by other executives quietly. He needs plausible deniability. He was expecting me to go home, panic, and make a mistake he could exploit later. He didn't expect me to bolt right to a taxi and head for a journalist. My escape threw him off schedule. That's why we have this small window. This was crucial information. It meant the boss was calculating, not impulsive. He was relying on the analyst's predictable fear. By being unpredictable, we had bought ourselves time, but also amplified the danger. The longer we stayed out, the more focused and ruthless his response would become. I took an illegal turn onto a bus-only lane, flicking my brights once to warn a bicyclist, and then immediately veered back into traffic just before a police car saw me. I risked a brief, comforting look at the analyst in the mirror. We're almost there, 5 blocks to Midtown. But when we get to 49th Street, you can't just walk in the front door. We need a distraction. We need to buy you the 5 seconds it takes to get that key into the lockbox. The analyst looked out the window at the looming skyscrapers, their tops shrouded in mist and power. He was visibly shaking, but he was thinking. Distraction. Look, there's a major protest happening a few blocks away near the plaza. They're demonstrating about a local policy change. If we can get close to that chaos, we could melt into the crowd. That kind of unpredictable human mass is the one thing his professional security team won't want to engage with. A crowd. Chaos. The perfect cover. The idea immediately spiked the emotional volume. It was a gamble, a desperate move that could either save us or trap us. The emotional trigger here was the thrill of the reckless, necessary gamble. I felt a wave of professional pride. This young man was sharp, even under extreme duress. He deserved to win. "The plaza it is. Hang on, son. We're going to give them a chase they won't forget," I promised, flooring the accelerator for the final, dangerous run into the thick of Midtown. The roar of the protest reached us long before we saw the lights. It was a rhythmic, pulsing wall of sound, chants, drums, and the occasional blast of a megaphone. For the analyst, that noise was salvation. For me, it was a gauntlet. Getting into that throng with a high-stakes pursuer on my tail was a monumental risk, but it was our only shot at a clean break. The emotional trigger here was the terrifying proximity of salvation and ruin. I could see the black SUV struggling 2 blocks behind us, hampered by the sudden influx of police barriers and the slow crawl of vehicles diverted by the demonstration. They were too big, too conspicuous for this chaos. My humble sedan, however, was built for blending into the messy heart of the city. "We're taking 51st Street parallel to the target. We'll cut over onto 5th Avenue and hit the edge of the crowd," I instructed, my voice sharp, every syllable measured. My focus was absolute, honed by years of navigating difficult situations. The analyst nodded, his breathing shallow but controlled. He was still terrified, but the proximity to the finish line was fueling his resolve. As we neared 5th Avenue, the streetlights turned into a blinding haze of media cameras, police lights, and the strobing glow of protesters' signs. The crowd was a dense, moving sea of humanity, exactly as he'd hoped. I could hear the chants clearly now, an angry, passionate tide of voices. I had to get close enough for him to leap out, but not so close that we got stuck and surrounded. The building is 2 blocks down on 49th. I'm pulling up to the curb here near the barrier. You have maybe 30 seconds of clear path. You run through the nearest gap, melt into the protest, and move against the flow of people. Use the density as your cover. They won't follow you into that, I explained, pulling the car abruptly into a loading zone just shy of the main police line. The minute I stopped, I saw the SUV make its move. They realized what I was doing and peeled into the bus lane, their driver showing a reckless, determined aggression that told me they were running out of time and patience. "Go! Now!" I yelled. The analyst didn't hesitate. He threw open the door, key still clutched in his hand, and launched himself out onto the street. He immediately disappeared into the surging mass of people, a grey suit swallowed by a kaleidoscope of placards and winter jackets. I watched him go, feeling a strange mix of terror and pride. He was fighting for his life, and he was doing it with courage. Now my job shifted entirely. I had to draw the fire. The emotional focus was now on selfless exposure and the burden of distraction. I was the bait. I threw the car into drive, accelerating sharply and cutting diagonally across the lane, effectively blocking the SUV, which was rapidly closing the gap. I wasn't trying to outrun them anymore. I was engaging in a tactical defensive maneuver. The SUV screeched to a halt right behind me, its driver leaning on the horn, a loud, angry sound that barely registered over the protest. Before they could move around me, I locked the doors and looked straight into my rear-view mirror. I could see the passenger door of the SUV fly open. A huge, dark figure emerged, radiating the kind of professional, cold menace that only comes from being paid handsomely to solve problems violently. He was headed for my car. I had seconds. I needed to keep the man engaged while the analyst made his final dash. I laid on my own horn, long and loud, drawing the attention of the surrounding police officers who were already busy managing the protest line. The professional heavy hitter was now rapping sharply on my window. I ignored him, keeping my gaze fixed on the crowd. I could just make out the analyst's figure, moving swiftly and low, utilizing every bit of human shield the protesters provided. He was cutting over to 49th Street. Almost there. The man outside my car grew impatient. He tried the door handle, then began rattling the car aggressively, shouting something I couldn't hear over the noise. I maintained my calm, steady demeanor. My heart was racing, but my hands were steady on the wheel. I was a professional, and I would not give in to panic. I saw the moment the analyst reached the corner. He had to dodge a police officer and then a street vendor. He disappeared behind the large column of the Global Observer building. He was at the entrance. I held my breath, visualizing the metallic key slipping into the secure box. Suddenly, the banging on my window stopped. I looked back and saw the henchman staring intently at the corner where the analyst had vanished. He knew he'd lost him. He straightened up, his eyes meeting mine in the mirror. His expression was a portrait of cold, precise fury. I saw him reach to his ear, probably communicating with his driver or boss. The mission was complete. Now, I had to save myself. The immediate emotional trigger was the quiet, terrifying realization of direct confrontation. I had bought the analyst his life, but now I had earned myself an enemy. The henchman moved away from my car and back toward the SUV, making a quick, sharp gesture to his driver. They weren't going to chase the fugitive anymore. They were going to deal with the obstacle. Me. I saw the reverse lights flash on the SUV. They were backing up, clearly planning to take a wide loop to follow the analyst on foot, or simply use their vehicle to push me out of the way. I wasn't going to give them the chance. I took my foot off the brake, eased the car forward, and then made a deliberately slow, exaggerated U-turn, heading back against the direction of the traffic, making myself look like a confused, annoyed old driver. I kept my speed low, melting back into the normal flow of diverted vehicles, intentionally letting a large box truck get between me and the pursuing SUV. The last thing I saw in my mirror before the box truck blocked the view was the henchman standing on the pavement, his silhouette etched against the flashing police lights. He wasn't chasing, he was just watching, memorizing my car, my license plate, and my face. He had lost the evidence, but he now knew the driver who helped ruin his boss. I was finally clear of the immediate danger, but the knowledge that someone with immense resources had my details sent a cold shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with the November air. The cost of my good deed had just been levied. The city swallowed me whole again. Once the huge, rattling box truck lumbered past, creating a necessary welcome void between my car and the silent threat I'd just left behind, I began the long, slow process of deceleration. Not just physically, but mentally. The raw, high-octane fear began to recede, leaving behind a shaking exhaustion that went right down to my bones. I drove for 10 minutes aimlessly, weaving through quiet side streets in the Upper East Side, streets where the silence was only disturbed by the distant sound of emergency sirens, a normal city hum, but today it felt like the echoing sound of a narrow escape. I pulled over into a dimly lit residential spot, killed the engine, and just sat there for a long time, hands still gripping the steering wheel. My heart was slowing down, transitioning from a panicked drumbeat to a heavy, sluggish thud. I looked at my reflection in the dark glass of the dashboard. Leo, the old driver, looking a lot older than he had an hour ago. The emotional core of this moment was the profound, lingering shock and the quiet reckoning of consequences. I had saved a young man, a near stranger, from professional ruin, and possibly worse. The metallic key to billions in fraud was now safely in the hands of a dedicated journalist. I felt a deep, quiet satisfaction, the kind that comes from doing the right thing, even when the risk is immense. But the fear the henchman had instilled, the cold, knowing stare, was a debt I knew I would have to carry. I pulled out a thermos of coffee, the lukewarm liquid a bitter but grounding taste in my mouth. I hadn't even asked the young man his name. I didn't need to. He was the analyst, the one who found his spine when everything was on the line. I wondered about him. Safe inside the fortified glass tower of the Global Observer. Was he telling his story right now? Was he handing over the key and the digital backups, laying bare the monstrous betrayal of his mentor? The implications of his story were vast. Billions stolen, a high-flying executive unmasked as a common criminal, and the market disruption that was sure to follow. And I, Leo, the humble gig economy driver, had been the unexpected pivot point in that colossal drama. I was the silent engine of justice. I ran my hand across the passenger seat, now empty, imagining the pressure he must have felt, the desperation to prove his innocence, the searing pain of realizing his entire career had been a lie. That kind of betrayal scars a person. But I also saw the strength he found, the sudden burst of focus when I needed him to be a navigator, a strategist. He wouldn't just be the victim in this story. He would be the whistleblower, the hero who saved himself and, in doing so, potentially saved thousands of investors from ruin. The emotional arc for him had reached its powerful, redemptive resolution. For me, the ending was more ambiguous. I was still out on the road, still running my shift. But now, my world felt subtly different. The quiet solitude of the job was gone, replaced by the knowledge that I had been witnessed, that my face and my car might be flagged in some highly funded clandestine system. I looked around the quiet street. Every parked car, every darkened window felt like a potential point of surveillance. The paranoia was an unwelcome souvenir of the night's adventure. I decided to end my shift early. It wasn't the fear that drove me home. It was the realization that I was no longer fit to blend in. I was too hyper-aware, too primed for danger. I needed to see my own comfortable, safe apartment, to sit in my quiet kitchen and drink my coffee without the threat of a large man in a suit trying to smash my window. As I drove toward home, the sun was just beginning its slow, hazy ascent over the city skyline. The pink-orange light washed over the glass towers of the financial district, including the one where the whole nightmare had started. It looked serene, indifferent to the massive corruption it housed. I pulled up to my small garage door, feeling the satisfying scrape of the concrete beneath the tires. Before turning off the ignition, I picked up my phone. The app was buzzing, more ride requests. I ignored them. I knew I'd be back out here tonight, and the night after. The city needed its drivers, but tonight I needed a break. The confession I received was a heavy one, a reminder that the quiet, contained world inside my car is often just a temporary stopover for people living lives of unimaginable pressure and consequence. It was a lesson in how quickly the ordinary can become the extraordinary, and how sometimes a humble old driver can become the unlikely instrument of fate. I parked the car, finally allowing myself to exhale fully. I had played my part. The evidence was delivered. Justice would run its course, and the analyst would be free. I just had to hope that in the massive wake of an investment bank scandal, the man who drove the getaway car would be forgotten. But something deep down told me that my life, just like the young man's, had been forever changed by the desperate whispered confession, "Please, drive faster." I smiled faintly, a small, tired smile. Yeah, I drove faster, and it made all the difference.